The U.S. Central Bank digital currency, CBDC, is the digital dollar going to be the end of our privacy? Are the concerns warranted, or just irrational panic over a necessary and unavoidable technological advancement? If the dangers are real, what are the solutions? And how can investments in scarce assets like physical gold and digital decentralized technologies like Bitcoin be used to counterbalance this constant erosion of our purchasing power? With prices still elevated, high interest rates, and the mounting national debt, the present and future purchasing power and cost of living of everyday Americans is more and more uncertain. If you think that you may be falling short of your retirement goals, see the link in the video description to the free inflation and retirement calculator. For a balanced perspective on this subject, we will hear from economist, White House advisor, and author Jim Rickards, economist and investor Keith Weiner, author and economist at George Mason University, Lawrence H. White, and macro analyst and investor Lyn Alden.
So over the past century and a half, and really more than that, most efficiencies we make with money come at the cost of centralization and more surveillance. So we make money faster and easier, but it gets coalesced in the banks and then central banks. And central bank digital currencies are kind of like the capstone of that, where it's just fully surveilled. It's kind of fully locked in. It's programmable by the state. Privacy is basically just completely lost at that point. And so in that world, it kind of helps maintain the 160 different currency bubbles that countries have now. It makes it hard for people to kind of escape that system. Then we enter a world of more centralized control than we've been accustomed to, and then you can use narratives around war, you can use narratives around the environment, things like that, to control how people spend more on a regular basis, which is a somewhat dystopian future. And it's not hard to imagine that more places could be kind of like the direction that China goes in, which is to have a pretty significant top-down enforcement. And I think that should be generally resisted, and that freedom of being able to use whatever money you want, basically freedom to protect your own savings, your own accumulated time and energy, should be rewarded.
And then people say to me, and they say, oh, that'll never happen. It's already happening. I mean, it's already here. Talk to the Freedom Convoy in Canada, what my neo-fascist friend Chrystia Freeland, who's the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, did to the Freedom Convoy. She called the banks in Canada. Now, the difference between Canada and the U.S., they only have 5 big banks. We've got like 5,000 or something. She called the banks, identified the bank accounts of the truckers, and froze all their accounts. She didn't stop there. She then called the crypto exchanges, because I know what cold wallets are, but a lot of people who put their money in crypto exchanges got their names, froze their crypto accounts, seized their trucks. They couldn't feed their family. They were put in jail, held without bail. They literally couldn't feed their family in the middle of winter, all because of a non-violent protest. And when I emphasize there was no violence, being held in jail without bail, where all of your money's been frozen, your assets have been seized, they're non-returnable, and you can't feed your family for what, a non-violent protest? But my point is, and that's an exercise in fascism, of course, but my point is that they did it all through digital banking systems and cryptocurrency systems. So I'll leave it at that, but the point is, this is more than just a digital currency. This is more than just convenience and cost savings, which it is. That's how they sell it. This gives them total surveillance, total control. It's the ultimate realization of the total surveillance state.
Nothing requires that money be produced by governments. Money, like a loaf of bread or like a cell phone, is what economists call a private good. If I'm using some money, other people can't use it at the same time. The money in my bank account is not available to other people. So, seems to me the burden of proof ought to be on those who want to nationalize the provision of money. The status quo is taken for granted, and let's talk about how it works. Money doesn't need a sovereign backer or issuer to have a market value. Silver and gold coins were privately produced before they were monopolized by the state, and even when they were produced by the state, they traded by weight, not by the insignia. People learned not to trust the insignia of the state as certifying the coin. Looking into the near future, people are talking about a central bank digital currency, and I say, well, hold on. First, make a case that the private sector can't produce digital currency efficiently, because we have Venmo. So why do we need a Fed version of Venmo?
So the government made it illegal from 1933 to it was re-legalized in 1975. As in, it was a felony, go to prison if you got caught with gold. So of course the government got the gold that was held at the banks and the safety deposit boxes. And a few gullible people gave their gold to the government. People were a lot more trusting of the government in those days than they are now. And most of the people hid their gold. There was a term called midnight gardening that became popular in 1933. Oh, look at that. The neighbors have a new flower. Huh. And, a meter and a half underneath that flour was the gold. So they didn't really get the gold. Yeah, the 1930s was a major breach of the rule of law. And ultimately, the antidote to that isn't a new technology, but it's the Reason Foundation, it's the Mises Institute, it's education and outreach to the population to convince them that, look, you were sold this bill of goods. You thought you were going to get something for nothing. That was the real reason why they created the Fed. Is the promise of something for nothing. You got to tell people, number one, you shouldn't want something for nothing, and number two, it's an illusion. The mouse never sees the spring-loaded piece of steel. He sees the cheese, free cheese. Have a population that demands their government not have the power. Got to keep people like that out of power. Don't give them the power rather than giving them the power and saying, gee, why is human nature failing? People are abusing their power.
Investment diversification is important, and in light of the prospect of CBDCs, private currency diversification may also be important. Gold, Bitcoin, and other solutions will play their own unique individual roles in this new environment. For more information on protecting your purchasing power and privacy, see the links in the video description to the many gold investment companies that we have thoroughly reviewed that provide private purchases as well as gold IRA options. Gold IRAs provide a tax-deferred means of building wealth, storing it securely, as well as protecting your retirement and purchasing power from counterparty risk. Thank you for watching.